Okay, today we're doing estimating products of fractions. So we are now actually into chapter 4. So go ahead and give this one a label of 34, the page number, on the back side of page 33. Okay, and estimating, or we'll just do estimate for short. Estimate fraction products. Okay, there's some important things you need to remember on this. First of all, there's a key word for multiplication. Okay, when you see the word of, that usually means to multiply. Because we're talking about a certain amount of groups of. Now, the thing with fractions is fractions are actually a division problem we didn't want to finish. So when we multiply by fractions, so I want you to write this down, multiplication of fractions of fractions is dividing by the denominator and multiplying by the numerator. So an example we might see when we're estimating, this is a lot like when we did estimating division, because that's kind of what we're actually doing here. We want to work with numbers that'll be easy for us to divide with. So when you're doing these kinds of problems, I want you to think about numbers that are easily divisible by the denominator. It will help you come up with easier answers in your head, which is the whole purpose of estimating. So we're going to do this example. Estimate 1/4 of, oh, there's our keyword of, we're multiplying this fraction, of 13. Okay, now if we want 1/4 of that, that means we need to divide by 4 and then times by 1. Or in this case, we want one group of the 4 pieces. Will 13 divide evenly by 4? No, but what's a number that's very close to 13 that will easily divide by 4? 12. Okay, I want to show you a bar model. This is just a simple rectangle. And we're going to say that 13 is close to 12. So if I take 12 and I split it into 4 equal groups, so we're going to split our bar model into 4 equal groups. If this whole thing is 12, what's one of those 4 pieces? Well, you'd have to have 3 in each one. So 1/4 of 12 is 3. So a good estimate, 1/4 of 13 is going to be about 3. Be just a little bit more than 3 actually, because 13 is a little higher than 12. But there's kind of a picture to help you see it. Other times we can just do it by using compatible numbers in our head. Okay, another example, skip one line. I want you to write estimate 2/5 of 11. Okay, now remember how we want to think about compatible numbers, or we're going to end up dividing by this denominator? So I want something that will divide nicely by 5. Will 11 divide nicely by 5? No, but 10 is pretty close. So if I say that, well, 11 is close enough to 10, okay, if I think about that, then I'm going to split 10 into 5 groups. So let's do our bar model again. This time I need 5 groups instead of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I'm saying that this whole thing is worth 10, what would each one of those little sections be worth? 2. Okay, so if I divide by 5, I get 2, but I want 2 of those groups. So 2/5 of 11, but we estimated to 10, is about 4. So my estimate is about 4, 2 of those groups. Okay, the bar model is helpful to look at, but if you can just think in groups, we don't have to draw the bar model. We're going to do 2 more examples that I just want you to think about. Okay, skip a line. I want you to write estimate. Actually, sometimes we can use like a number line to help us see it. So that's what we're going to do on these last couple. Estimate 1/9 of 4/5. Okay, this one will be easier to see on a bar line. So if we're going to be estimating, sometimes it's just helpful to think, what are these close to? So looking at this, 1/9, what if we can think, what is it closest to? Half, whole, or a 0? Well, if I'm looking at this, 4/5 is almost 1. So draw a little number line over here. We're going to have 0 right here, 1 right here, half right here. Okay, 4/5 is about right there, 4/5 of the way. Now, if I want 1/9 of that, that means I'm splitting that area into 9 pieces and I want 1 of them. So if I split this little space into 9 little pieces and I only want 1 of them, it's going to be somewhere right here. So you can kind of visualize that. But when we're estimating, we just say, okay, where's this? 4/5 is pretty close to 1, so I'm going to leave that as 1. 1/9 is pretty close to 0. So what's my answer going to be fairly close to? It's going to be about 0. It's going to be a really small number. Okay, let's try another one similar to that. How about 3/8 of 7/9? Okay, 3/8 is pretty close to 1/2. So I'm going to estimate that to be 1/2 times 7/9. That's almost full. So the way I think about it, if I think about 8, half of 8 is 4. 3 is pretty close to 4. That's how I can estimate this to be close to half. 7 out of 9, well, 9 out of 9 is a whole thing, and 7 is not very far from 9. So I'm going to estimate this to be 1 whole. So about where's my answer for this one going to be? About 1/2. Okay, what if I do 1/7 of 3/16? Okay, 1 out of 7 pieces, that's pretty small, so I'm going to estimate that to be 0. 3 out of 16 pieces, that's just barely started as well. So I'm just going to estimate that to be 0. So I can expect this answer to be about 0. It's going to be a really small number. And that's all they're wanting you to think about with this stuff. Just estimating. Okay, we're going to try one similar to this, except for it's going to be mixed numbers, not just little fraction pieces. Actually, we'll do 2. Let's estimate 13 and 1/12 times 3 and 9/10. Okay, we've already got our whole number of 13. We just need to decide, is it closer to 13, 13 and a half, or 14? So look at 1/12. 1 out of 12 pieces, that's pretty small. 1 of the 12 is not very much. So I'm just going to round this to be closest to 13. 3 and 9/10. Now 9/10 is almost full, so I'm going to round this one to be 4. So my estimate would be about 13 times 4, which is about 52. Okay, try one more. How about 4 and 1/3? Times 8 and 3/4. Okay, 1 out of 3 pieces. I could look at that as 4 and a half. So I'm going to write that as 4 and a half. This one here, 8 and 3/4. 3/4 is almost 1 whole. So I'm just going to round it to 9. All right. 4 times 9 is 36, but 4 and a half. What's half of 9? 4 and a half. So 4 and a half plus 36. About 40 and 1/2. Now, if you estimated this to 0, that would have been okay. So we would have just had 4 times 9. Remember, estimation is just about getting a close answer. This one would be closer, but 36 would be close enough to tell you if you're doing your answer right or not. Okay, just simple thoughts for you to think about when we're estimating. So that way, when we're really multiplying these fractions, you'll know if your answer is close or not. Okay, make sure your answers are nice and neat, and we'll grade them in the morning.